This is Kent Hance, best storyteller in Texas. And the saying of the day is a great one. A friend of mine told me last week, John Underwood, said his dad used to say, on the 3rd of July, on the 3rd, be sure and remember to buy a 5th for the 4th. So it's on the 3rd, buy a 5th for the 4th. And I thought that was pretty funny. I might share that with everyone. 4th of July, we had a lot of celebrations everywhere, as we always do. President made a great speech in Washington and stayed pretty well on target. Didn't beat up on anybody real hard, but he did say that we're not going to have any socialism and communism in the United States. I hope he's right on that. You look at the recent elections, there were several people that got endorsed by Mondami, the mayor of New York City, who's been a U.S. citizen for 8 years. He moved here from Cape Town, and he was born in Uganda, and he's of Indian descent. His parents were business people from India. They must not have been too good of business people, and his mother was a filmmaker that they don't believe in business. He ran, I looked up at some of the things he ran: free buses, free subways, free child care, and the city would buy grocery stores and lower the prices. Government-run grocery stores. The only problem, you're going to be out, they won't have everything. And they also put a freeze on rents, that you couldn't raise the rent. That'll make every developer in the country want to go to New York and build apartments, Mm-hmm. They won't have anybody building there. And but then he had $30 an hour minimum wage by 2030. But his biggest one that would cause him the most problem he can't do right now is to raise taxes. He's going to raise taxes on the billionaires, and it wasn't going to be enough, so he said the millionaires and the billionaires. And let's just run them all off. Anybody who's making money, we're going to run you off, and we'll see how we do. The mayor has been told by the governor, you can't raise the taxes. It has to be done in the legislature. But I'm telling you, if the financial well-off people pulled out of New York and moved to Dallas or someplace where they'd be treated a little better, they'd have major problems. They wouldn't have enough income to run the massive government that they have. He really was critical in his speech about July the 4th. It just, you wonder, well, why did you come here if it's so bad? So we'll see how he ran as a socialist Democrat. We'll see how he does.
Do you feel like the Democrat Party there's a hostile takeover of the party from the socialists?
The progressives are taking it over. They're trying to get rid of the liberal Democrats who were not liberal enough. And they've gotten rid of all the conservatives and most of the moderates. And it's not good for them. It's not good for the country. So, who knows how it's going to play out. But
I think you know how socialism's going to play out.
It always loses. It's bad for everyone. Margaret Thatcher said it best. Well, sure, it always works until you run out of other people's money. Mm-hmm. When you break them all or they move, they'll vote with their feet. They'll leave. And you just wonder that, what the voters were thinking in New York. And he won pretty big, and he endorsed candidates couple for Congress in New York, and they won, beat incumbents. And one in Colorado, endorsed somebody out in Colorado that was running as a Democrat socialist. And that's, I don't know if they're going to adopt that name, but, Bernie Sanders has always run as a socialist Democrat. And AOC, and so they're out campaigning for people. They go to heavily Democrat districts and endorse people and get out and campaign for them and free this and free that and free everything. And, you'd think, do you people not understand what you're saying? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work. And everywhere it's been tried, it's hadn't worked at all. Also, we had this happened in the state of Washington, not in Florida, but the guy's driving along Interstate number 5, and he rolled down the window and point guns at people's motors, like he was going to shoot their motor or something. I don't want to leave Florida out. I usually have 2 or 3 things they've done, and I don't know why they get all the publicity, but they do. But they had a woman that was 30 years of age named Reagan Cox, and they were examining her. Police were at the police station to make sure she didn't have any weapons or anything that could harm them or do anything, and she moved around, and a package of cocaine fell out of her rear, and they arrested her additionally for that charge. I don't remember what the original charge was, but that she posted a bond and due back in court on July the 28th. We'll try to give you an update on the cocaine lady. A study was done on tipping, and they found that the best states were Delaware was number 1 at 22.1%, West Virginia was second, New Hampshire third, Indiana, Ohio, and Wyoming tied fourth, and the rest of the top 10 was Kentucky, Maine, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. Then they had the worst 10 states, and the very worst was California. In California, that doesn't surprise me. They think the government should do that. They don't think they ought to tip. Let the government do that. In states that are very liberal states, people don't tithe as much. They think the government ought to take care of that. Mm-hmm. And so California was the worst. Washington, D.C., same theme, was second. And the state of Washington was third, then Nevada and Florida, Louisiana, and Texas was tied with Hawaii on 8th, and New Jersey and New York, Mississippi were tied for 10th. So if you want to get a bunch of tips, don't be going to California or New York. They're not going to tip you enough. It won't be good. Another unusual story that came out in China, they're opening a new hotel in 2027, and that everything will be handled by robots. Oh. When you check in, a robot will check you in. When you check out, a robot, and everything in between, from making up beds to room service to any questions you've got, will be robots. And it'll be interesting to see. People are always looking at how can they cut out people that are working by the hour, and can they get a machine that doesn't have a baby that gets sick and can't come to work, or gets sick and something happens. The machine continues to work. I know at the airport in Austin, they have some of the restaurants they have kiosks that you can go use your credit card and check in and go through, and they haven't expanded them a bunch, but they still that's the way you can check out pretty fast. And they of course in Austin they don't have any chains. You don't have a McDonald's or Burger King or anything like that. It's all local, and some of them make good hamburgers or good pizza, but it's a different deal than you find at most airports. Most airports don't have the, we hate chain type of atmosphere.
Do you like the kiosk? Dislike the kiosk? How do you feel about it?
No, once I used it several times and got accustomed to it, I like it. It just fine. My wife and I were in South Carolina one time. We were in Charleston, and we went in a spaghetti, French and Italian combination, which is not a good combination, but it is. Yeah. It was there, so we went in and ordered some spaghetti or something. The ticket came to about $16, and I had several hundreds, and I had a 20, and I gave her 20 and said, keep change. She said, really? And I said, sure, keep change. And she, thank you so much. And she left. And I said, they must not tip much here. People must be deadbeats, not tipping these kids. And so when we left, one of the guys at the front said, be sure and let me ride on you next time. And they were friendly. And I got over to a museum when I was going to buy a ticket. And and I said, do y'all have change for 100? And they said, yes, they did. And I reached in my pocket, and there was a 20. I'd given her a $100 bill, so she got a tip on a $15 ticket. She gets $85. Mm-hmm. And I said, I guess I could call her, and they probably might give it back to me. But she's already planned the party for the night. I had some fool from Texas come in here and give me $85.
Reminds me of the time you tipped a guy $100 for enchiladas in Waco.
Yeah, I pulled up to the El Chico's on the Circle there in South Waco, and I was in a hurry, wanted to go see the Tech Baylor basketball game. It was going to start pretty soon. I told this kid, I got to go to the restroom, and if you've got me enchilada dinner with no onions and a Dr. Pepper, I give you $100. You can keep all the change. And so I left and went to the restroom, and I came out of the restroom, and he was sprinting with my plate of enchiladas to my booth. And he got there before I did, and I reached my pocket and gave him $100. And he was happy, I was happy, and I got to see the game, got to see it on time. See, I like to go to a restaurant, I can order, and they'll bring it to me immediately. A lot of restaurants, especially the high-dollar ones, they want you to, sit around in the ambiance, and they want you to look at the ceilings and the floors and talk about how beautiful it is and everything. I go in there to eat. Mm-hmm. I want to eat, I want to get it over with, and I want to go. I got other things to do. But I love that kid. He was, I don't even remember his name, but he was a student at Baylor, and he understood what I was talking about when I said, if you have my enchilada plate here, when I get back, I give you $100, and you can take whatever you need to out of it and keep the rest of it.
I bet he hadn't forgotten you either.
That's probably right. They say, what's the best tip? And he said, it's crazy Texas Tech guy came in and gave me $100, Also in China, there's a new business, and you think they're getting a little closer to capitalism because they figured it out. They may survive because they started getting away in the standard of living has improved immensely in China. The freedoms haven't, but they've got a new deal where you can rent a dog. And you rent a dog by the hour. It costs anywhere from $1.90 to $7 or $8. And I guess you'd rent a dog and take him for a walk or something, or go show your neighbors you got a dog or something. I'm not big on rent a dog. If you see me walking along, I've rented him for 10 minutes, maybe 15. And it reminds me of a story about these three doctors were debating and talking about when does life begin. And one of them said it's a conception. And one said, no, it's a delivery. And the third one said, life begins when the children leave home and the dog dies. So he took a little different approach. Some animal rights groups came out against this because they said having too many owners like that or too many people walking the dog, it'll create a lot of stress on the dog. Oh, and I didn't sleep well the last few nights. That's all I could think about. That dog is going to be stressed. A stressed dog, we had a dog named Tippy, and he lived under the house, and we never bought dog food. Never. He got the scraps that were left over from our eating, and he had rabbits that he could chase. And he always wagged his tail. He seemed real happy. The one thing he didn't like to do, I took him with me to go plow at a little place northeast of Dimmitt called Arney. And you could plow. An exciting days when you'd see 3 or 4 pickups. That was really a great day. And you'd wave at somebody and, wonder who it was or where they were going. Usually you knew. And but I took him with me. and he had to follow the tractor all day, and after that, I couldn't catch him in the morning. He didn't want to go. He'd rather stay under the house. And so we don't, the dogs in China get rented. I just don't want them to get stressed out. That's number one on their agenda. Doctors in Spain diagnosed a guy with cancer, and it's cancer of the brain, and he was just, they were really upset and depressed. And then they went back and they did a check, and it did a CAT scan, and it did every test you can come up with, and it was a tapeworm from pork. It got in his brain and everything. They gave him steroids and antibiotics, and he got well. But that kind of is gross. I mean, that a tapeworm be in your brain. They said usually it's because you've been traveling, you've been to a third world country. Last weekend, being July 4th, on Instagram, you could see all these people doing something stupid with fireworks and it blow up. One showed two guys with boxes full of fireworks and had a big bonfire, and they pitched those fireworks in there and took off running and got a good ways away, and rockets were going off. And I had a friend in college that his dad, when he was little, was shooting fireworks for his kids, and he had been drinking. I guess he had, on the third, had bought a fifth for the fourth and was using it. And he had a Roman candle, he thought, but it was a skyrocket. They have that old cheap wood that's got splinters all in it. He is holding that and lit the skyrocket. And it took off and took part of his skin on his hand with him, and it got infected later, and they saved it. They were able to save it. But he thought it was a Roman candle. But the states, and this is good, states that have the most injuries per users, for every 28 people that use fireworks, one is going to get hurt in Ohio. There's more people get hurt by fireworks in Ohio. Ohio's got to be long on the consuming alcohol, if that figure is right. And
there's definitely a connection between alcohol,
a lot of alcohol, and
a lot of holding my beer,
fireworks. Hold my beer while I shut this thing down, and they create a lot of problems. Indiana was second with 1 in 34, Missouri third, New Hampshire fourth, Kansas fifth, Nebraska. A lot in the Midwest. Nebraska 6, Iowa 7th, Michigan 8, Oklahoma 9, and Alabama 10. I'm surprised Texas didn't make it, because on the Instagram, a lot of those people were from Texas. And so it was, a warning. They warn everybody. And one of the guys may have been somebody on your program on the mornings listening that was talking about, there'd be certain people going to wake up tomorrow morning and they look at their hands and fingers and everything. They'll all be there, but they may not be there when the day is over. So you got to be careful,
right,
with fireworks. Michael Jordan, he had a Ferrari, a V12. A V12's got a lot of things can go wrong with it. And he got it and gave it at the United Center in Chicago after the Bulls won the championship in 1997. He gave it to Scottie Pippen. And Scottie kept it for a while and gave him back. He was staying in the shop all the time. And gave it back to him, and he sold it. And then a few weeks ago, they started trying to trace it. And an antique dealer in California had it. And it was specially made that somebody 6'6", 6'7" could get in it and drive, scoot the seat back, And but it took them a while to figure out where it was, and they finally figured it out. On a poll that was done, a couple of polls that I saw on July 4th, and proud to be American, and in living the American dream. 75% said they're proud to be an American. The Democrats were in the 20s, and this usually happens if your party's out, you're a lot more distressed. And they were in the 20s that believed in the American dream still happening, whereas the Republicans were in the 90s. And still believe in the American dream. And a new survey showed that family opportunity, wealth was only, there was like 17%. The American dream to them is making a bunch of money. And but most of the people, big part, having a good family life and having a good job, that was 75 to 80% of the people.
That's good.
And it does show that they're realistic in their goals. You know, there was a guy on radio the other day talking about why does the United States need a trillionaire? Because he creates jobs. You know, creates a lot of jobs. And I always figure I want to be around millionaires or billionaires because they're liable to drop some money, and you know I may come up with it, get my share. The opportunity still exists in the minds of most people. Housing is a concern because it's hard for a young couple to go out and buy a house today, you know, when they get married.
We talked about that last week. There were 20-something cities in America that the starter homes started at $1 million.
$1 million. You know, I mean, you get San Francisco and L.A. and New York City, and the more liberal the government, the more costly it is to live there. 71% say they feel like they have the same or better opportunities than their parents, and that surprised me. The only negative factor, 43% are uncertain about artificial intelligence, whether it's really going to help us or it could hurt by taking away some jobs.
You know where a lot of opportunity that you mentioned is, and people might be overlooking, is learning a skill or trade right now is a smart move.
It is. And, you know, community colleges, I'm familiar with South Plains Community College, and they have Culinary Institute. You want to be a cook, cosmetology, welding, electrician, plumbers, truck drivers. The truck driving school's always full, always full. And then people get out and they're going to make around $45,000 to $50,000. If they stay in it for 3, 4, 5 years, they'll be making $100,000. And so it's a good opportunity for them. But you know, on the other hand, you don't know what's going to happen in trucking in the future with the autonomous truck that be driving itself. I know in Austin they have Waymo is one of there's several cars that you can get to be like Uber. They'll pick you up and take you wherever. And somebody asked me, "Do you like that?" And yeah, I like it. I drove, got one in San Francisco. Got their app and called a couple of times and got it. You don't have to pay them. They don't say a whole lot. You know, they don't bug you about anything, and you don't have to pay them a tip. And if you go downtown Austin, those little white cars with the bubble on top and everything, I mean, they're everywhere. New study from the Bottom Line came out about the 10 most affordable American-made cars. And all 10 were foreign make type cars, but they were Toyota, Honda, but were made in the United States. And that they had the list. Number one was a Toyota Corolla LE, and starting price at $24,000. And most vehicles in this day and time start right around $50,000 sticker price. Ford, they had a Ford dealer told me that 95% of what he sells are pickups, and that
F-150s.
They have the Mustang and they have the SUVs, the Explorer and then the Bronco, but that's it. But it's the pickups that's their number one thing, and that the top 10 included cars made by Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, Subaru, and but made in the United States. Another study came out from the Bottom Line, and it had about it was about drinking alcohol, and a third of the people from 23 to 24, where they study and everything, it dropped. The number of people consuming alcohol dropped by a third in that 1 year.
Probably has the beer and alcohol makers a little worried.
Yeah, they'll have to get after the advertising. They won't have to be like Budweiser, and they decide, let's go after the transgender market.
You're right.
There's so many of those people. You know, it doesn't make 1%. Whoever, I'm bound to have somebody listening that can tell me who was the ad agency that came up with that recommendation to Budweiser, and I want to know who on earth approved it, thinking that was, that's our market. That's the football and sports and young men. That's not our market anymore. It's transgender. We got to get out there. And it was just, you just wonder how they got to the positions they got.
They say go woke, go broke.
Yeah. That's good. July 4th was great. It was a lot of fun. And our saying of the day was, on the 3rd, remember the 4th and buy a 5th.